And look, well, talking about, look, I'm a fan of your art. I've bought,
Yay!
and it's back to Doctor Who.
There it is.
I bought a Smoking Cyberman off you.
Smoking Cyberman. Thank you so much for buying that. That was on the first print run. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Bless you.
So what? Because obviously you got that. That's the biggest part of your website, really. Is
My pathetic website.
It's your art shop. So you got an art shop.
Yeah.
So when did you sort of think, okay, I'm going to sort of do art as alongside comedy, or was it always there? And when did you think I'm going to start selling? I mean, a lot of them are about either Doctor Who or sci-fi or comedy. I mean, you do a lot of portraits of comedy.
I haven't tackled you yet, Richard. I haven't done it.
No.
I need to do that. But yeah, so I started, it was once again a lockdown thing. And I was very fortunate that during lockdown, we had this weird job where we were writing pretty much every day on a topical show hosted by Nish Kumar for Quibi, R.I.P. The only example I think of trickle-down economics to ever exist, because a billionaire put loads of money into this app that he thought would be amazing. And I think actually, it not being lockdown, it might have stood a better chance. But because lockdown happened, it was meant to be like a commuting app. It was meant to be like you're on the way to work, you watch like a little 10-minute thing. Yeah. But it didn't work and it closed down. And now it's sort of seen as one of the great entertainment follies, I think. But one thing it did do was pay myself and about 6 other comedians to turn up to a Zoom every day. And that was amazing. And I am so privileged in it. Lockdown was a time when it was very difficult for a lot of people. And I was able to sort of do that work. But then you'd log off and then just your evenings were, I would sort of usually be gigging or going to see shows and things, but your evenings just nothing. So I was like, I've got to do something. I've got to do it. And so that's when I started. I started painting. I started following loads of painters on Instagram. There's an amazing painter called Will Rockford who is inspired by Norman Rockwell, those kind of paintings. I think he's absolutely amazing. And I loved what he was doing. And I think it's just a way of... just sort of you get lost in that flow state, don't you, when you're creating things. And that was a really nice thing, because I think a lot of us were all really in our own heads during lockdown because there was sort of no escape. Couldn't go to the cinema, couldn't do those things. So the chance you could sort of just focus on doing a painting. And then also I thought it'd be quite fun to sort of learn in public, to kind of go, okay, I'm going to start doing some painting and just do as much as I can and put it all out there. And some of it won't be very good, but at a time when I think social media is all about showing your successes, it was quite nice to also go, okay, here's everything. Here's how you learn how to get better at something. Because I guess, stand-up similar, isn't it? You get to sort of fail in public until you get better. Although you can, because that's live, you can sort of pretend that a lot of those gigs didn't happen. But so that was kind of a little bit of sanity. And so since then, I've done a lot more. There's a big sort of online art community. Comedians like Annie McGrath, I think, she does a podcast all about art. She's amazing. And then there's Jenny Eclair's another great. She's sort of a stand-up who does a lot of art as well. Rufus Wright. There's lots of people. Suddenly you sort of going, oh, there's all these people whose main job is comedy or acting or writing. Mark Gatiss as well. And they've also got this sideline, and it's actually quite common. It's a lot more common than I thought that people sort of do that, because I think if you do a forward-facing job where it's all about sort of performing live and doing those kind of things, doing something that's more about focus and more about sort of focusing in on something is a real joy. So that's how it all started. And I sort of pick it up, and depending on sort of how busy I am and how the schedules align, I'll sort of pick it up and drop it. But I just find it very soothing. And that's quite nice, having those moments where it's all about just sort of focus and concentration and quiet is a good thing to have in life, I think.
I think it definitely is. And you must have done art before, or did you really start 6 years ago and it got to this point in 6 years, or had you done stuff?
I had that, yeah. So I loved that. Before that, illustrators like Chris Riddell and Martin Rouse and people like that, like pen and ink drawing. I used to do lots of pen and ink drawing and stuff. A lot of it's also what's available, kind of, because it is expensive. It can, I suppose every hobby has a thing where it can be as expensive as you want it to be, really. But as soon as I was like, oh, I've bit of a disposable income to spend on something, and some people spend it on photography and will get all the different sort of lenses and things, or like learn an instrument and get everything about that. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna treat myself to all the nice paints that I've always sort of walked into Cass Arts and dreamed about opening that glass cabinet and getting the really nice ones out, and so I grabbed those. And that was sort of, I was sort of doing a bit of illustration and things, and always sort of kept my hand in with drawing. Because, I find it, it's a very sort of soothing, it's that left side, right side of the brain thing as well that I think keeps you maybe mentally balanced, especially at times when that can be quite challenging.
Yes, it's true. Again, I've come to it quite late, and and I'm only really dabbling very occasionally at stuff. But I think I do feel, because I think, but nearly every comedian who's successful, I think as well, has to throw themselves so much into comedy, and you can become very, very focused on it and nothing else. And that certainly was the case for me for like 20 years at least, until I probably met my wife. It was really, okay, this is all that matters. And then, or most of what matters. And, I think it is good to go, okay, look, just do something that's going to take you away from that.
So are you painting as well? Or is it pottery? Are you now fully a potter?
I sort of enjoyed the decorating of pottery more than the making the pottery. So I've bought some watercolors, but I've actually just been mainly using pencils.
Nice.
Colored pencils to do stuff at the moment. So I've done like 5 or 6 things. Try, if I've got a photo, I can sort of do a version of the photo, which does not, I keep on trying to draw my kids and I cannot get anywhere near making my daughter look right. But there's it's sort of weirdly, I've just found from genuinely thinking, when I went into the pottery show, I thought, well, I'm the joke. It turned out it was mainly comedians anyway, but I'm the joke guy who's going to just have a blob of stuff. And I was sort of surprised how I was able to capture stuff that doesn't look like the thing, but it has the essence of something within it. So I think I'm not going for, your stuff is very realistic looking and very, it's not photorealistic, but it's very sort of getting closer to that than what I'm doing. I was compared to Lowry in the pottery show.
Very nice.
So that's the kind of element. But Lowry has spent his whole life becoming a fantastic artist in order to then, and Picasso, and then to create something childlike. I just have not gone beyond the ability to be a childlike artist. So just because I'm old, people assume it must be a decision rather than incompetence. But
that's what I love about I think there's a real holistic thing that goes on with creation of sort of anything, and I do think that it's the same with comedy. Like the whole thing when you start comedy is like find your voice, find your style, and that's how you sort of get. And the same is absolutely true with visual arts as well, which is like you say about something you're a good example of someone who probably has a level of research and intellect behind their comedy, and then almost will absolutely remove that to be silly and stupid and where wanted. And the same is true of art, where you learn the techniques and you learn those things, and then you can decide, is your style going to be realistic? Is it going to be is it going to have more of kind of a simplistic or impressionistic style? You sort of got to learn all the elements and then decide where you exist within that. When a lot of people, when they start out doing stand-up and things, they might do they'll learn the mechanics of gags, and they'll learn the mechanics of how to make people laugh, and then decide how they want to deploy that. And the same with art, you learn the mechanics of what colours and those kind of things, and then sort of how you want to sort of best represent yourself. So I think it's all connected in some weird way, I like to think, anyway.
Talking of art, I don't know. I don't know what I'm presuming there's some art within your Edinburgh show this year, which is called Portrait of a Tom as a Young Neenan.
Yes, indeed. So this is it's kind of it's a storytelling show, and it's about me being commissioned to paint a man in his mid-80s, and I use it as a jumping off point for a number of things, but he was an interesting guy, and I sort of tried to represent him as accurately as possible. I changed his name and things because don't want to get in. Actually, his family and stuff were absolutely fine with me sort of talking about that and everything else, but I just thought out of to change his name. But yeah, he was an eccentric man and had a lot of very specific ideas about how he wanted to be painted. And that, while I was doing that, as I'm sure a lot of stand-ups do, like while I met him and I was doing this thing, I was like, there's something in this. And at first I thought I'd try and turn it into a film. I'd try and write it as sort of I loved Wallace Island, which is like a two-hander. I thought that was such an amazing achievement. And I was like, oh, this could be, sort of a young and old, young in inverted commas, and old, and sort of our relationship. And there might be a bit of a, sort of one of those quite nice British comedies that they used to make, kind of Lady in the Van style thing.
Yeah.
But then I was like, oh, no, I think it's so hard. What they did with Wallace Island was incredible, and it's so hard to get films off the ground. So I was like, okay, I'll do it as a two-man play. I'll write it as a two-man play. And then I thought, well, that is dependent on finding a very good, sort of actor in his mid-80s. Yes. I'm sure there are many around. I just don't necessarily have access to who they are. And then, and probably if they are really good, they're also incredibly expensive. And so sort of mounted that. And then I thought, what's the smallest number of people to get involved in this to make sure it actually happens? And I was like, it's that thing that me and mainly a lot of my friends do, which is telling a story on stage and making people laugh. And they're like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that version, which is the version that I should have been starting from the start. So that was kind of the roots to doing this as a live show rather than anything else as well.
Sounds great. Yeah, amazing. So that's, we'll give it the proper, it's 3:15 p.m. The Blue Bella Underbelly, George Square. I don't know that venue.
I think it's new. I think it's a new one. I think it is one of their one of the shipping containers, and I'm so glad I'm not there now, because I think that would be some kind of human rights violation to have people in that venue at the minute. I know that Edinburgh does get hot, but yeah, I'm hoping it's not an absolutely horrific one like it. Yeah, I've done a few of those shipping container venues, and they are. It's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot to.
It is a lot. Weirdly, Edinburgh in the sun is worse than Edinburgh when it's raining, which is also, it's pretty much the choice you have.
Yeah, sometimes both as well. Sometimes you'll get a shower and then everyone will have that smell of wet wool that then kind of fills the venue. And so I'm looking forward to remembering all that. It's been a while since I've done a full Edinburgh run, so I get all those smells. The brickwork that never dries, that smell of brickwork that never dries and stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to being back.
Yes.